นะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะพุทธังธัมมังสังฆังนะมัสสามิ Blessings. Today we have meditation retreat for a day. That's why I took the 8 precepts just now. So for a day you've become a monastic, temporary monk or nun for the day. Somebody asked me, or quite a lot of people asked me actually, what do you want for your birthday? Because that's another reason why we're here today. And I just said, just practice the Dhamma. When we're practicing the Dhamma, there's not much you need materially, as long as you've got a bit of food to survive on, a place to sleep, you're wearing something. You don't need much more in terms of material things. But the best way to kind of remember or to do things when we come together on an occasion such as a birthday or any other kind of anniversary or special day, I would suggest is practice the Dhamma. Practice meditation, listen to the Dhamma, keep precepts. This is the best gift we can make for ourselves, but also to remember our teacher, the Buddha, to honour the Dhamma, honour the Sangha, through the practice, what we call Patipatti Puja. If you think about it, why do we come to practice the Dhamma? Was this gift we received from the Buddha out of his kindness, compassion for people everywhere. He shared what he understood, what we call the Arya Satya Dhamma, Four Noble Truths. He shared that with us, his understanding, his knowledge that came through his practice that freed his own mind from suffering and the causes of suffering, greed, anger, delusion, what we call mental defilements. He shared that with the rest of the world out of kindness, out of compassion. So you could say, practicing Dhamma as we are today, we're doing something that is kind for ourselves, kind for other people. The Buddhist teachings and practice are founded on this basic wish for all beings to be well, happy, free from suffering, recognizing that there's something similar in all of us, the wish to be happy, free from suffering, but also that we're all affected by suffering. Because once you're born, and everyone in the world is born, otherwise you wouldn't be here. But once you're born, you have to face aging, get older every day, and with that brings sickness, degeneration of your body over time, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, and then ultimately we all have to face death. What we usually just say is birth, aging, sickness and death. Everyone has to face that. But the Buddha's teachings, coming from a mind of wisdom, knowledge and compassion, are giving us a way to deal with that, how to face that, how to cope with that, understand that, and do the best we can as human beings. So he gave us this way of practice. We just chanted the Noble Eightfold Path. We call it the path that is beautiful in the beginning, beautiful in the middle, beautiful in the end. Normally we think about beauty as, again, material things, beautiful images, pictures, sculptures, things that people create, or sometimes the beauty of nature. And all of this may be true, but the greatest beauty must be that way that helps us to be free from suffering, the Noble Eightfold Path. And beautiful in the beginning refers particularly to the practice of dana and sila, and learning to bring our mind and speech and actions in line with the Dhamma so that we can live together without hurting each other. Beautiful in the middle, developing the mind more deeply, cultivating samadhi, samma samadhi, bringing the mind to peace, bringing up mindfulness, making the effort to abandon what we call the 5 hindrances, different negative, unwholesome states of mind. And beautiful in the end, developing panya, or right view, samadhi, insight, deep insight into the suffering and its cause, but then cultivating the path, bring the mind to the end of suffering, the cessation of suffering. This is the most, you might say, the most beautiful thing in the world. The trouble is it's invisible. It's where do we really practice this path, cultivate this path? Well, it's in our mind, in our hearts. We display it through our actions, our speech, what we do outside, but where we really have to practice is on the inside. So it's hard to see. We all know how hard it is to know our own mind, and that's why I've come to practice some meditation, to improve our ability to know our own mind, to bring up that which is beautiful. Sometimes we talk about this mind as like a vessel, an empty vessel. And an empty vessel, you can put anything into it because it's empty. What do we put into our mind? Well, again, we put in these things which are half the time, they're just invisible, but all the thoughts, feelings and emotions, the moods that we experience, the memories that we experience, and the things we see, hear, taste, touch, smell, they all come into this mind and they fill the mind up. But of course, you keep filling the mind up and you start to have problems at the very least. You start to feel heavy. It starts to have a, even though it's invisible, it starts to feel heavy because you're filling it up. And also we start to experience some pain and suffering too. And that's because we don't yet understand the Dhamma. We don't see the mind or know our own mind so well, so then we don't realize what we're doing. It's all automatic, quite automatic that we do this from when we're a little kid up until now. We've been filling our mind up with all kinds of things, and not all of it is good. Or not all of it is conducive to peace and happiness. The bits or the parts which are not conducive to peace and happiness, greed, anger and delusion, that means mental states, unwholesome mental states that we cling on to. As we cling to them, well, we're filling our mind up with them. And this is where our suffering comes from. And we all know what it's like when you're angry, you're not happy, you're not peaceful, your mind is not quiet, calm, content. When we're caught into greed or selfishness, The mind is not content, it's not at peace or at ease. When we're deluded, we tend to be confused, worried. The mind is not peaceful. So if we fill the mind up with greed, anger and delusion over time, we're filling the mind up with feelings of agitation, restlessness, disturbance and so on. But most of the time we're not aware of what we're doing. So we need to improve our ability to know, to see our own mind, and to protect it, look after it, so that we don't put all this stuff inside or fill it up with all this greed, anger and delusion which will cause us suffering. But because we've already done it to a certain extent, we have to be patient, because we're now not only trying to prevent filling it up with more greed, anger and delusion, but also having to deal with what we've done already. Without knowing, we've let greed, anger and delusion into our mind, as it were. So we automatically, sometimes you see something you like. With that liking you get greed, you get attraction. You smell something, you see something, you hear something. It can stimulate different kinds of desire. When you don't get what you want, then you go more towards aversion, irritation, anger. It's something you want, but you don't get it. Or you get what you don't want. This is the result of having filled the mind with greed and anger and delusion before. Now it's just primed or ready to be triggered. You see something you like, the mind wants it, moves towards it, thinks about it, remembers it, clings to it. And you can spend the whole day thinking about something you like, imagining, wanting. Or goes in the same way with things you don't like. You can spend your whole day thinking about things you don't like, things that make you angry, upset, fed up, annoyed. All of this is just going on in the mind, and maybe other people don't even know about it. So who's going to look after our mind? Because if other people don't even know, there's no way they can do that. We have to learn how to do it for ourselves. We can take what other people say, right? What the words of the Buddha can be useful, the teachings of the Buddha, other people who have practiced well, people like Ajahn Kalyano, can take their words which will help us. But we also have to do it for ourselves. So that's why we're here, to actually put these teachings into practice. So normally as we practice, we say, well, we're cultivating this path, Sila, Samadhi, Panya. Maybe the first thing we learn when we come to meditate is practice of mindfulness. Usually you're taught to practice mindfulness by focusing your attention on a particular object of mind, to keep it in mind, to remember it. And therefore you start to become more mindful, because under the influence of all this greed, anger and delusion we've accumulated over time, it tends to push the mind around, not very peaceful, not very mindful. So now we need to practice mindfulness, bring it up. So usually I talk about the practice of mindfulness of breathing, anapanasati, but there are many other ways to bring up mindfulness. It's not limited to that only. But for want of a better technique, we'll talk about that today. So when we practice mindfulness of breathing, you might begin by just thinking of the Buddha, your teacher, and the Dhamma and the Sangha. That's why we just did some chanting, just to bring our mind, our attention to that. And then before we've even put attention on the breathing, you just pay attention to your body, how you're sitting right here, right now. How you're sitting, whether you're sitting comfortably, so you're allowed to move and get yourself comfortable as you meditate. Pay attention to your body in a way you may more closely than you normally do. So notice if you're sitting in a way that brings up some pain. Maybe you need to adjust. Sometimes we have tension in the muscles, so you can send your awareness down from the top of the head down to your feet, stopping at different places along the way, noticing how your back is, whether your back is up straight maybe, because that will help you to stay awake. Noticing the muscles in your face, in your arms, in your hips, in your legs, your feet. In the beginning of this meditation, you just get to know yourself physically, the body, and also notice how you're feeling mentally. As now you're starting to pay attention to yourself, coming into the hall. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? Maybe you've come into the hall bringing a whole package of stuff with you, meaning this vessel, the mind that you've been carrying around with you. You may have filled it up with all kinds of things before you came here today. So now when you sit down, it starts to come out or come up into your awareness. Conversations you've had, activities you've been doing, who you've been with, where you've been, what you've been doing. Some things pleasant, some things unpleasant. That all start bubbling up as well. So accept that as you begin meditating. There'll be the physical side of your body and how that is, and then the mental side of your thoughts and feelings, different activities mentally going on. So you have to keep that attitude of metta, goodwill, well-wishing towards yourself as you meditate. Some of what you encounter will be easy to be with, some may be harder to be with. So you need the metta and the goodwill in case you face anything difficult or you're feeling tired or fed up. And then your main aim is to bring up this quality of mindfulness, sati, keeping in mind, so directed to the breathing in this case. Get to know what the feeling of your in-breath and your out-breath is like. The sensation as it comes in at the tip of your nostrils. So take some deep breaths. Find out what it feels like as the breath comes in, as the breath goes out. Where's that feeling? Notice how when the breath comes in, your lungs expand, your abdomen arises. And as the breath goes out, the abdomen falls, the lungs go shallow, they deflate, and then the air comes out at the tip of your nostrils. Just notice that. If at first it's difficult to find, then you can deep breathe for a while. Exaggerate your breathing just so you know what it feels like, where the points are that you sense the breath in going into the body and going out. But then try and pick one spot. And the first part of your meditation is just learning to do this, giving some effort to it. However distracting other things are, just try to be patient with that and keep returning to the breath. Some people will count, maybe up 1 till 10, just to help improve their attention, concentration on the breath. Some people will recite a word such as Buddha with the breathing. But your aim is to get to know the breath more and more as a way to bring up this quality of mindfulness and the supportive quality, sampajanya, clear comprehension. So clearly comprehending what you're doing, not confused, not sleepy, not lost and sort of all over the place. Of course, those states of mind will come up. You will be sleepy sometimes, restless sometimes, confused, agitated sometimes. But the aim is to bring up sati and sampajanya as much as possible. As we do this, little by little, you may find your mindfulness improves. It's more steady. The awareness, the knowledge of the breath is more clear. And the distractions fade. But sometimes those distractions, or what we call the hindrances, the 5 hindrances, pancha nivarana, are very strong. Again, it's because we followed them for a long time now. They're old friends, but they're not very good friends to us because they really disturb us. But we have to put up with them, but also we have to learn how to understand them and let go of them. And so sometimes just mere effort, putting effort into being mindful of the breath, using willpower, won't be enough. We also have to use some wisdom, some insight, and find different angles, different approaches sometimes. You could call this the use of wisdom in your meditation. As if you're trying to follow the breath, but your mind is not sticking with the breath. It just can't stay there because it keeps thinking about other things or keep falling asleep. Or maybe you need to adjust your approach or adjust what you're doing a little bit. So sometimes we use some wisdom. So one simple wisdom that Luang Por Chah encouraged a lot is just focus on the impermanence of whatever is coming up in your mind. Whatever thoughts, trains of thought, whatever emotion you experience, even if it's very strong emotion, very upset, angry, or you're very sad, or you're full of desire, or even fear. It's not permanent. You probably felt that emotion many times in your life before. And this time it will pass too. It won't last. Every thought arises and ceases. Every memory arises and ceases. Every feeling. That's physical feeling as well. Pain and pleasure in your body. Subtle pain and pleasure in your mind as well. And they arise and pass away. They're impermanent. And you can use that knowledge to help you to loosen some of the mind's obsession with all these hindrances. Just keep watching and it will pass away. If you're sincere enough and put effort in, maybe that's all you need to do. Put up with it, but just watch until things change. That thought arises, it comes into your mind, bothers you, and then it goes. You might feel sleepy for a while, but then it will pass. You may have some pain in your leg or something, but that also will tend to pass. Things change, and you can use that truth to help you to just loosen some of the obsessive thinking and concern about all these different states of mind or physical feelings, mental feelings. You apply the wisdom just to help you understand it better from a different angle. What it does, it helps you to not take these things so important, give them so much importance. You know, not believe every thought so much, not to get lost in it so much, because you know it will end. So you're looking at the same thoughts, but from a more detached angle. You could just use that reflection of when will this end, when will this change, and you wait and you watch and it will. Just since you got up this morning, you've already had thousands of thoughts pass through your mind. Pleasant ones, unpleasant ones, random thoughts, boring thoughts, exciting thoughts, interesting thoughts. But they all arose and passed away. And where are they now? You can use that as you're trying to concentrate on the breath. You can say, I don't need to follow this train of thought. Just let it go. Come back to the breath over and over again, and more your mind will stay with the breath, with the breathing. But you have to keep practicing, keep doing it. Sometimes we have to use a specific insight to help us. So, say you're irritated. We get irritated over everything. We even get irritated over our inability to be mindful of the breath. Can't stay with the breath, so we get annoyed. We're annoyed about a pain in the body. We're annoyed about something. You can even say, I know it's impermanent, but you're still feeling it, still thinking those thoughts. So maybe just saying it's impermanent isn't enough. Maybe you have to bring up the opposite. So if you're feeling irritated or annoyed, bring up the thought of metta, goodwill, for yourself. That could be as simple as just bringing up the thought, the intention, may I be well. May I be free from this irritation that I'm now feeling. So often there's a very simple thing we can introduce, a new way of thinking or a better way of thinking when we're caught into some distraction or some mental suffering. And we just forget, but now you're meditating, this is the time you can practice it. May I be well, may I be free from this irritation. If you're sleepy, you just establish the wish, may I be free from this sleepiness. Already that sets you in the right direction. You may still have to battle a bit, sit up straight, open your eyes, work harder to stay awake, come back to the breath, but just establish the intention to overcome or abandon the sleepiness. Sometimes it's doubt. You say, doubt, I can't meditate. I don't think I can meditate. I don't think I'll ever meditate. This meditation is too difficult. It's not for me. Other people can do it. I can't do it. All kinds of doubts about ourselves. Sometimes doubts about the actual meditation itself, or even the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha. But mostly about ourselves. It's just not for me. Try and recognize the doubt as a doubt. Oh, this is a doubt. And doubts are like everything else. They arise, they pass away. Sometimes you remember some Dhamma teaching that you've had before that you can introduce into your mind to counter the doubt. Sometimes just know this is doubt, set it aside. Maybe make a plan. I'm going to continue sitting till the end of the session even though I've got doubts in my mind. I'll just be with doubt for a while, watch it. Your aim is to find a way that you can come back to the breath. Put up with whatever's in your mind. Try not to get caught into reactions to what you're thinking, but just to know it. So as we keep practicing, putting effort into being mindful of the breath, letting go of these hindrances, whatever way they're coming up, we start to relax usually. Physically and mentally start to relax, calm down. But the feelings of peace, relaxation are not the goal of the practice. They're, you might say, a supportive factor. Obviously makes the meditation more enjoyable if you start to relax a bit. But it's not a goal in itself. The goal is to know, to be aware, to know your mind and your body. It's knowledge that will free us from suffering. And that's why everything can bring us knowledge, even the bad stuff, even greed, anger, delusion, fear, worry, anxiety. In the end, it can become a source of knowledge to us. It can be useful to us. That's why Ajahn Chah used to say, everything is good in that sense, because everything can teach us something. Even the suffering teaches us something. And everything just functions according to the way it is. So if you're feeling angry, well, observe where's the anger coming from. It's probably you didn't get something you wanted, or you're experiencing something you don't want. And that's what happens. You don't get what you want. You feel annoyed, angry, disappointed. That's what it does to you when you don't get what you want. Unless you're more mindful, and then you can say, okay, I didn't get what I want. But you don't let your mind cling on to the irritation, frustration, aversion. You just know it. Oh, I didn't get what I want. When there's knowledge, you can do that. When there's mindfulness, there's knowledge and wisdom, you can do that. When there's no knowledge, no mindfulness, we just react. So you don't get what you want, you go straight to aversion. When you lose something, you become sad. That's just nature, that's just the way things work. If you're not fully aware, fully understanding, you lose something you love, you get sad. But if you can be mindful, you still lose that thing, but you know what's happened and you don't let your mind become sad or lost in the sadness. If there's something you want, you desire, if you're not mindful, it will bring up some form of greed, liking, wanting. You keep thinking about the good bit, the pleasure, whatever you feel or get from it. That's what it does. Pleasant, attractive things bring us desire, which brings us, if we get them, maybe we'll get some temporary happiness. But that's just the way it works. But if you can know what's going on, you don't necessarily have to run after the pleasure and keep wanting it, but you just know, oh, pleasure is like that. Attractive things are like that. Everything can teach us. But the things that become clear are that everything is impermanent. Nothing lasts. Nothing can bring you lasting peace and happiness. And the highest or the most profound kind of insight is that none of it belongs to you. It's not self, we say. And whatever pleasure and happiness we feel passes away. It's not self, it's not there all the time. Pain is not self, pleasure is not self. When we're more mindful and we contemplate, we can see that. Even in the course of one meditation, there'll be periods where you feel pleasant, comfortable, happy maybe, periods where you feel restless, agitated, bored, further periods where you feel better, more comfortable, more mindful. You'll observe many things. All of this is teaching you something. You're learning. So in that sense, it's all good, it's all useful. If we never learn to look back at our minds, understand them more, then we just become like slaves to whatever mood arises. See something we like, get excited by that, want it. See something we don't like, get annoyed, get upset, angry. That goes on all the time, unless we start to be more mindful and contemplate what's going on. If you keep practicing the Dhamma, you're starting to fill up the vessel of the mind with the good stuff, the mindfulness, the wisdom and understanding, the metta, the kindness. You can change your mind for the better that way, through the practice. So we have a bit of time left now. I'll stop talking and we can practice sitting meditation for the rest of the period until you hear the sound of the bell.